The haunting melody. The coastal town of Blackshore was known for its rugged beauty, where the cliffs met the churning sea, and the waves sang their eternal lullaby. But amid the crashing waves, there existed a legend whispered in hushed tones, the tale of the woman who walked the shores. Her haunting whistle luring unsuspecting souls to their doom. They called her Marina, a name that echoed like a mournful refrain through the town's history. She was said to appear on moonless nights, her silhouette a wraith against the silvered sands. Clad in a tattered gown that billowed like the waves, her dark eyes held an ancient sorrow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Marina emerged from the shadows. Her presence felt more than seen. With each step, the sand yielded beneath her bare feet, a ghostly echo of the footprints left by the countless souls before her. And then, she began to whistle a melody that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. It was both mournful and entrancing, like the lament of a lost soul calling out to the living. The villagers knew to avoid the beach on those cursed nights, but curiosity or fate often led wanderers astray. They would find themselves drawn to the haunting tune, unable to resist the lure of Marina's melancholic serenade. As they approached, the air grew colder, and the sea seemed to hold its breath. The moon cast an eerie glow upon the sands, illuminating the spectral figure before them. Marina's dark eyes met theirs, and a strange sense of recognition settled in their hearts. With each note, Marina's whistle wove a spell, entrapping her victims in a trance. They moved closer, helpless to resist, their breaths mingling with the salted air. And then, as the final note hung in the night, Marina's touch was like ice against their skin. In that moment, they became hers, forever bound to the restless sea, their souls becoming a part of the mournful melody that echoed through the ages. But one fateful night, a stranger named Elias arrived in Blackshore, his footsteps marked by a quiet determination. He had heard the whispers of Marina's haunting serenade, but he was not like the others. He bore a pendant, passed down through generations, an amulet that held ancient, protective magic. As Marina's whistle pierced the night, Elias felt the pull, but he resisted. He clutched the amulet, its power surging through him, shielding his heart from the enchantment. With a resolve born of desperation, Elias approached Marina. Her dark eyes met his, and for a moment, a flicker of recognition passed between them. But Elias was resolute. He spoke, his voice steady and unwavering. "Release them, Marina. Let them go." The sea seemed to stir, the waves crashing with a furious roar. Marina's whistle faltered, her gaze wavering, and then, with a mournful sigh, she stepped back, fading into the shadows. The spell was broken, and Elias watched as the spirits, their faces etched with gratitude, vanished into the night. He turned away, knowing that Marina's haunting melody would continue to echo through the ages, a reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the restless dead. And so, the legend of Marina, the woman who lured her victims with a mournful whistle, lived on, a cautionary tale for those who dared to venture too close to the edge of the sea, where the line between the living and the departed blurred. The eternal wake. In the heart of a forsaken town, where shadows clung to the walls like the remnants of forgotten souls, there existed a man who never slept. His name was Lucian, a figure twisted by time and cursed with immortality. The townsfolk whispered tales of his insatiable hunger for the life force of others. Lucian's eyes bore into the darkness with an unholy gleam, fueled by centuries of wakefulness. His skin, like ancient parchment, clung tightly to his skeletal frame. He moved through the night like a wraith, silent and stealthy. Each night, Lucian would search for a new victim, his senses heightened to a supernatural level. He would prowl the narrow alleys, seeking those whose souls pulsed with the faintest glimmer of vitality. They were the unsuspecting souls, blissfully ignorant of the danger lurking in the shadows. As the moon cast its pallid light upon the town, Lucian's fingers extended like talons, ready to drain the very essence of life. He would approach his chosen victim with an almost hypnotic grace, his eyes piercing their very soul. Upon contact, an otherworldly force would seep from Lucian's fingers, a sinister dance of malevolent energy. The victim's breath would quicken, their eyes wide with terror. As their life force was drawn from them, their once vibrant essence withered and faded, leaving them a mere husk of their former self. Lucien reveled in the stolen vitality. His body momentarily rejuvenated, the lines of age retreating. He was eternally bound to this nightmarish cycle, forever hunting, forever feeding. The townsfolk lived in perpetual fear, whispering legends of the nightmarish specter who haunted their streets. Mothers would huddle their children close, warning them of the eternal wake. One fateful night, Lucien's insatiable appetite led him to a woman named Alara. She possessed a spirit that burned brighter than any he had encountered before. Her laughter echoed through the cobblestone streets, a beacon of untamed vitality. Alara's eyes met Lucien's, and for a fleeting moment, he hesitated. Her spirit was a blaze of defiance. Undeterred by the malevolent force that sought to extinguish it, she would not go quietly into the night. As Lucien reached out, a surge of resistance met his touch. Alara's will clashed with his, a tempest of power and determination. The struggle between them was a cataclysmic clash of light and dark, a battle that transcended the mortal realm. In that moment, a blinding flash erupted, illuminating the town with a searing brilliance. The ground trembled, and the very air crackled with energy. When the brilliance faded, Lucien stood alone, weakened and defeated. Alara's spirit, now untethered, soared into the night sky, leaving behind a world forever changed. The curse that bound Lucien to his nightmarish existence was broken, and he was cast adrift in the flow of time, forever searching for a sliver of the vitality he once stole. The townsfolk, no longer shackled by fear, rebuilt their lives, and Alara's legend lived on as a symbol of unyielding strength. Lucien, condemned to a solitary existence, became a specter of his own making, forever haunted by the memory of the one soul he could not consume. And so, the town remained a place of shadows, but now, they danced with the promise of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit that could triumph even over the darkest of nights. The Widow's Lament. In the heart of a desolate town, cloaked in eternal twilight, stood an ancient mansion shrouded in whispers and sorrow. It was known as the Widow's Lament, a place where darkness and despair held dominion. The legend spoke of a widow who once dwelled within its walls, her spirit forever bound to the haunting halls. The widow's name was Eleanor Blackwood, a woman of beauty and grace. Her raven black hair cascaded like a waterfall down her back, and her eyes, once vibrant, now held a mournful glint. Eleanor was a recluse, rarely seen outside the mansion's foreboding gates. Her days were spent in solitude, consumed by memories of her lost love. Years before, Eleanor had been wed to the enigmatic Lord Nathaniel Blackwood. Their love was passionate and all-consuming, but fate proved cruel. Nathaniel vanished one fateful night, leaving Eleanor alone in their foreboding abode. Rumors of dark forces and secret pacts whispered through the town, but the truth remained veiled. As the years passed, the mansion grew eerier, its once majestic halls now echoing with hollow, anguished cries. Shadows danced and wailed, their presence an eerie testament to Eleanor's pain. The garden, once lush and inviting, now lay in ruin, choked with thorns and twisted vines, mirroring a widow's heart. One chilling night, a traveler lost in the shroud of the twilight stumbled upon the Widow's Lament. Curiosity coursed through his veins, overpowering his fear. He ventured inside, the creaking floorboards beneath his feet a symphony of foreboding. In the heart of the mansion, he found Eleanor, a spectral figure draped in tattered black lace. Her eyes, once pools of tenderness, now held a haunted glimmer. She spoke in a voice that seemed to echo through the very walls, recounting the tale of her lost love and the sinister pact that had stolen him away. As the tale unfolded, the traveler's blood ran cold. He knew he was in the presence of something beyond mortal comprehension. Eleanor implored him to break the curse, to free her from her eternal torment. She spoke of a hidden chamber, a place where Nathaniel's fate was sealed. Together, they ventured deeper into the mansion's labyrinthine recesses, navigating through cobweb-covered corridors and dimly lit chambers. At last, they reached the Chamber of Shadows. where a malevolent force lurked. The air grew thick with dread, and the walls seemed to close in with trembling hands. The traveler uncovered the truth of Nathaniel's fate. He had made a pact with an ancient, malevolent entity to save Eleanor from an untimely death, but in doing so, he had become a prisoner of the darkness, summoning every ounce of courage. The traveler faced a malevolent force, invoking ancient incantations passed down through generations. The room trembled, the very foundations of the mansion groaning in protest. In a blinding flash of light, the curse was broken, and Nathaniel's spirit was set free. Eleanor and Nathaniel were reunited, their souls finally unburdened. The mansion, once a mausoleum of sorrow, bloomed with life, the garden bursting into vibrant colors once more. The townsfolk spoke of the miraculous transformation, and the legend of the widow's lament was forever etched in their hearts. But the traveler, forever changed by the encounter, knew that such darkness could never truly be banished. The widow's lament would remain a testament to the enduring power of love and the terrifying depths to which it could lead. The haunting heirloom. In the quiet town of Ravenswood, nestled among ancient oaks and shadowed by misty hills, there stood a centuries-old mansion known as Blackwood Manor. Within its darkened halls, a chilling secret lay dormant for generations, a doll with eyes that gleamed like shards of glass, passed down through the lineage of the Hawthorne family. The doll, named Matilda, was an eerie figure, her porcelain skin marred by time, her silk dress faded to a ghostly gray. Despite her fragile appearance, Matilda was said to harbor a malevolent force, a cursed legacy that none dared to speak of openly. The Hawthorne family were a somber lot, their faces etched with lines of worry, their laughter but faint echoes in the grand, creaking hallways of the manor. Generations came and went, each inheriting Matilda with trepidation, but none daring to discard her. To rid oneself of Matilda was to sever a link to the family's dark history, and thus she endured. It was young Clara Hawthorne who found herself the unwilling heir to Matilda's sinister legacy. As she held the doll in her trembling hands, Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. As if the doll's gaze pierced through the depths of her soul, she placed Matilda on a dusty shelf, far from her bedroom, hoping to forget the eerie relic. But Matilda was not so easily dismissed. Each night, Clara was roused from her slumber by a soft, haunting melody that seemed to emanate from the doll itself. The notes danced through the air, mingling with the whispers of long-forgotten secrets. Terrified, Clara ventured into the dimly lit room where Matilda stood, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. As Clara approached, Matilda's porcelain lips seemed to part, and an ethereal voice filled the room, recounting tales of sorrow and woe, of lives cut short and promises unkept. Clara tried to flee, but an invisible force held her in place. As Matilda's mournful song echoed through the chambers, days turned to weeks, and Clara's once vibrant spirit withered under the oppressive weight of Matilda's presence. She grew pale, her eyes hollow, her laughter silenced. The townsfolk whispered of a curse, of a darkness that clung to the Hawthorne name like a shroud. Desperation gave way to determination, and Clara resolved to free herself from Matilda's malevolence. Guided by fragments of forgotten lore, she ventured into the heart of the manor, seeking a way to break the curse that bound her to the doll. In a hidden chamber, Clara discovered a dusty tome, its pages filled with incantations and sigils. With trembling hands, she recited the ancient words, willing the curse to dissipate. The air grew thick with a palpable energy, and for a moment, it seemed as though the very walls of the manor held their breath. As the final syllable left Clara's lips, a brilliant flash of light erupted from Matilda, illuminating the room in a blinding glow. When Clara's vision cleared, she found herself alone, the doll reduced to shards of shattered porcelain. With Matilda's demise, the manor seemed to sigh in relief. As if a great weight had been lifted, Clara emerged from the hidden chamber, her spirit renewed, her eyes aglow with newfound purpose. From that day forth, the shadow that had haunted the Hawthorne family for generations was finally dispelled. The mansion, once steeped in sorrow, echoed with the laughter of children and the warmth of a family united. But Clara knew that the legacy of Matilda was a cautionary tale, a reminder that some heirlooms carried burdens too heavy to bear. And as she gazed out from the grand windows of Blackwood Manor, Clara vowed to protect her own descendants from the haunting specter of the past, the haunting glow. In the small, forgotten town of Hollowbrook, nestled deep within a forest shrouded in ancient legends, there stood an eerie mansion. Its timbers creaked with the weight of centuries, and its windows whispered secrets only the wind could hear. The mansion was rumored to be cursed, its halls haunted by a restless spirit. One moonless night, a wanderer named Samuel arrived at Hollowbrook, seeking shelter from a storm that howled through the trees. He stumbled upon the mansion, its silhouette beckoning like a ghostly specter. Desperation mingled with curiosity, compelling him to venture inside. In the heart of the mansion, Samuel discovered a chamber shrouded in shadows. Save for a flickering lantern perched atop a dusty pedestal, it emanated an otherworldly, pulsating light. Its glass was etched with cryptic symbols, and its handle bore the inscription, "3 wishes to the brave." Unable to resist, Samuel lifted the lantern, and in its glow, the air grew colder, shadows grew longer, and whispers danced on the edge of his hearing. With trepidation, Samuel spoke his first wish. "I wish for wealth beyond measure." The lantern's light flared, casting eerie patterns upon the walls. When the glow receded, Samuel found himself standing in a chamber lined with glistening jewels and overflowing chests of gold. He was momentarily spellbound, but the shadows whispered warnings of greed. Overwhelmed by a newfound avarice, Samuel barely hesitated before uttering his second wish. "I wish for power unmatched by any." Again, the lantern's light surged, bathing the room in an ominous radiance. Samuel felt a surge of energy coursing through his veins, a strength that made him feel invincible. He could command the elements and bend the world to his will. But as days passed, the power twisted him, turning him into a merciless ruler. His subjects quaked in fear, and the land withered beneath his dominion. The shadows grew darker, murmuring of consequences. Haunted by his own malevolence, Samuel sought redemption. He returned to the lantern, its glow pulsating in time with his racing heart. With trembling lips, he spoke his final wish. "I wish to undo the havoc I've wrought." The lantern's light dimmed, leaving Samuel in an oppressive silence. Suddenly, the mansion shook, walls groaning in agony. Darkness seemed to seep from the very stones. When the tremors ceased, Samuel found himself standing in a desolate, crumbling ruin. The once grand mansion was now a spectral shell, echoing with the whispers of the past. Hollowbrook was no more. In the chilling silence, Samuel understood the true nature of the lantern. It was a vessel of malevolent magic, offering desires wrapped in chains of consequence. He had been its pawn, a marionette dancing to its tune. With a heavy heart, Samuel took the lantern, and as its glow diminished, so did the shadows. He made his way through the forsaken forest, carrying the lantern far from Hollowbrook, vowing to keep its cursed light from ever falling into the hands of another. And so, the lantern and its legacy became a legend, a cautionary tale for those who dared to grasp at the shadows of their deepest desires. For within their brilliance lurked a darkness that could consume even the bravest souls. The Midnight Waltz. On the outskirts of the forgotten town of Ashen Hollow, where shadows clung like specters, there lived a woman known only as Alara. She was a ghostly figure, her presence whispered in hushed tones by those who dared to speak her name. Alara was said to haunt the empty streets, her pale figure swaying to a melody only she could hear. As the clock struck midnight, the town lay shrouded in a thick, oppressive fog. The lamplights flickered, casting eerie glimmers on the cobblestones. It was on these silent streets that Alara emerged, a specter in a flowing white gown, her dark eyes gleaming with an ethereal light. Her dance was mesmerizing, a blend of grace and eeriness that drew the eye and chilled the soul. She whirled and swayed, her movements as fluid as the mist that wrapped her on her. The melody that accompanied her was haunting, a melancholic tune that echoed through the empty alleys, and beknownst to those who watched, Alara's dance held a dark purpose. Her hypnotic movements were a siren's call, luring unsuspecting souls into her macabre ballet. Once entranced, they became mere marionettes, puppets to her will. The victims would join her in the twisted waltz. Their eyes glazed, lost in a trance. They moved with her, their steps synchronized to the haunting melody, their hearts pounding in time with the rhythm of their doom. As the night wore on, Alara's dance grew more frenzied, the shadows weaving around her like tendrils of malevolence. Her victims, now pale and hollow-eyed, danced with a desperation born of terror. They were trapped in a nightmarish waltz, unable to break free from Alara's grasp. One fateful night, a traveler named Amelia arrived in Ashen Hollow, seeking shelter from the encroaching darkness. She had heard whispers of Alara's haunting dance, but dismissed them as mere superstition. Curiosity piqued, she ventured into the deserted streets, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Amelia's breath caught as she stumbled upon the ethereal figure, swaying in the moonlight. Alara's dark eyes met hers, and in that moment, Amelia felt a shiver crawl down her spine. The melody seemed to seep into her very bones, beckoning her closer. But Amelia was no ordinary traveler. She bore a pendant, passed down through generations, an amulet that held protective magic. As she touched it, a surge of power coursed through her, shielding her from Alara's enchantment. With steely resolve, Amelia stepped forward, breaking the spell. Alara's dance faltered, her eyes narrowing in fury. The spell had been broken, and Amelia was free. As the first light of dawn began to pierce the horizon, Alara retreated, disappearing into the shadows, her dance silenced. The empty streets of Ashen Hollow returned to their slumber. Unaware of the near tragedy that had unfolded, Amelia left the town, her heart heavy with the knowledge of the dark secret that lay within its misty alleys. She knew that Alara would return, her dance an eternal curse upon the forsaken streets. And so, the legend of Alara, the woman who danced on empty streets, lived on, a cautionary tale for those who dared to wander into the heart of darkness, where the line between enchantment and malevolence blurred.